In 2020, at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, Chicago's Ganser released their second record, Just Look at That Sky. Once COVID restrictions started to lift over the summer, the band was finally able to play shows in support of that record. I recently caught up with the band ahead of their December 2nd show at the Cactus Club.
My name is Brian Cundiff, and I am the drummer in Ganser.
My name is Alicia, and I play bass and sing in Ganser.
So tell me, you've got two shows coming up here in Wisconsin, December 2nd at the Cactus Club, and then December 3rd at the High Noon in Madison. Are these your first shows back coming out of the pandemic?
We had a residency at the Empty Bottle here in Chicago, which was 3 nights in a row back a few months ago. And then we did a few short tours with Bartiz Strange and Algiers.
Yeah, we're just kind of getting our toes wet again, like everybody is going to see shows. It's equally exciting playing and seeing shows these days, kind of a dream.
How has the response been? Do you feel coming out of this that people are a lot more receptive and excited to see live music again?
I think, people are just kind of raring to get back out there again, and we're in the same boat. It was really great to play those first 3 residency shows out because we released a record during the pandemic. And so we really didn't get a chance to play any of these songs live for anyone until this point. So it's been a long time coming, and just kind of feels like our birthday every show.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the record. Just like you said, it came out during the pandemic. Did you record it during the pandemic, or had it already been recorded beforehand?
No, it had been recorded beforehand, and we were initially going to release it a little bit earlier than we did, but because of the way everything did go down, we pushed it back a few months, and I think that ended up working out for the best for us.
Yeah, we recorded it at a studio here in Chicago over 2019, over the year. So it was a lot of work that went in, and we were really excited for 2020. We were set to go to South by, and so you can imagine we were just as shocked as everybody else. But it really, it was interesting releasing a record during last year. It's not something that I would choose to do again, but it was a really great way to meet people online that were in the same position trying to release music last year, but also just kind of connect with people who were getting the record not only in the States, but worldwide from a distance. So that was pretty cool.
Like most bands throughout 2020 and early 2021, the band had to change up their plans. For Ganser, this included releasing a remix EP titled Look at the Sun.
We were able to also work on a remix album, more of an EP actually, that we did later in the year in 2020. And that also, in addition with, not having played these songs out, we've been able to really extend things. And so, with all the bad that came with the pandemic, we feel like it's also given us some positive things too.
And just to add on to that, I feel like, the remix EP wouldn't have happened if we were just, out touring per normal. We were able to reach out to folks that we had met online or had met before the pandemic and couldn't see in person, people we were supposed to tour with in 2020. So it was a great way to collaborate with people, even if we couldn't be together in the same room. We, kind of made a little a list for ourselves, a dream list of artists that we'd love to work with. Like I said, it was all people that we had real connection to, whether we had played a show together previously or, we're supposed to play together in 2020. So when we made this list, we were looking at people, and you can kind of get a sense when you listen to somebody's discography of what they could bring to certain songs. So in some ways, it was kind of matchmaking. In other ways, we were just giving people songs whole cloth to do what they like. Something that I think was really freeing for us was to give someone stems of all of our work, but basically say, you do you. And so whenever we got things back, it was a really great surprise because we were able to hear something that we obviously had great involvement with the materials that went into it, but the result that came back to us was really surprising. And it was really interesting to see if things come back, if they came back sounding like you thought they were going to sound or something completely different. But on our end, no notes. It was just, we want to see what you would do with this.
Anyone familiar with the band can instantly recognize their unique aesthetic and art direction. Alicia explains how it all came together.
So Nadia, who's the other vocalist in the band, she also plays keyboard. She and I, we met in art school. And then after art school, we went into creative fields. Nadia's in film and I'm in design. And I think a lot of people that go into those fields find themselves in a place where they're doing creative work that's not very personally creative. It's creative for the client or the agency that you're working for. So at a certain point, she asked me, do you want to start a band? I'd never had a band before, but we decided to jump in knowing that not only would it be music, but we would dive into video making and design on top of it in regards to the project. And then Brian here and then Charlie, the guitarist, joined in 2015. So we've been going now for about 6 years. I think kind of like the music, the way that I kind of look at it is we're a Venn diagram with 4 circles with an overlap that lives in between us. And I think that's kind of where the ethos of the music, but also the look and aesthetic of the band comes from. And, I do design everything for the band, but the way that I always describe it is that the 3 other members are, in a way, my creative director, in that I'll bring them things that I feel like are inspired by the music, and then we'll shape it together, or they'll pick between A and B if I can't. So it's a real collaborative effort there. And typically our music videos just start out with something that's said during practice in the room. It's a joke, or it's, a scenario or a situation, and then we build upon it from there. So we've developed our process now over the 6 years in that it's something that's really collaborative, and it's just, I feel like half of it is just writing down things that come up in conversation, keeping track of things that interest you, and then taking a look at it all once the album's recorded and saying what fits with this.
As our conversation carried on, Brian and Alicia filled me in on their writing process.
In general, I think we do a lot of writing on our own. We put in a lot of hours developing ideas on our own, and then we'll present that to the band. And what's happening, we're realizing more now, especially with the last record, is we went in and recorded 5 or 6 songs, and we listened to those and saw where we were at. And then we went and worked and filled in some gaps that we thought, a little more energy, maybe, something a little more mellow, something a little more expansive, that kind of thing. It gave us, some time to go and take a look at what we needed.
Yeah, I think, for us, it's like the first record was recorded in 5 days, recorded and mixed in 5 days, and, written over 6 months or whatever. But this record, Just Look at That Sky, the writing and recording process probably spanned 1.5 years. And we found that kind of slow, kind of additional process and writing, a batch and then going back and then writing in response to that batch and then going back is a really good way to approach things, because you can be in love with one song 1 minute, but 6 months down the road, a different song might be your favorite. So it really does switch up the process, especially when it comes to something like track listing, This record kind of has a weird life of its own. We went into it not knowing what was going to happen and just kind of embracing that uncertainty, because what else are you going to do? And, it was one of those things where the record came out, the reception seemed great. People were, getting it. And now we're on the 3rd pressing, and found ourselves really surprised at the end of 2020 to wind up on a bunch of year-end lists. So it was really definitely something that grew over time, which has been great because, now that we're out on the road, it wasn't something that was a flash in the pan in July of 2020. It's something that's kind of, like I said, has a life of its own.
As our conversation started to wind down, The band relayed to me their plans for the future, which includes 2 shows in Wisconsin before the end of the year, one on December 2nd at the Cactus Club, and one on December 3rd at the High Noon Saloon.
We're, going to wrap up the year, I think, with these 2 shows in Wisconsin, just to just see where things kind of go and see where things are at. I think everybody is taking slow steps back into the scene. And I think the bands are right along with everybody else in that. And it's always nice to come up to Wisconsin because Brian spent a large portion of time in Wisconsin. So it never feels like it's that far away.
Well, I graduated from UWM. And I was in a band in the late 90s called Third Person, and we had played at a bunch of places that aren't there anymore, like the Globe, Unicorn we played at, even did Summerfest one year. But yeah, the Cactus Club, I played there, I think, for the first time about 20 years ago. And it's changed quite a bit over the years, but it's a great place to play. And at this point, I'd say that's probably my favorite place to play in Milwaukee.
Well, first and foremost, we definitely want to get this record out in front of people. Like I said, we're about to have the 3rd pressing of the record come in. Hopefully, we'll have that by the time we're coming up to Wisconsin, which would be great. But we are currently writing the 3rd record. We're about to go back into the studio to record a couple of tracks. In the meantime, we're just excited to keep kind of pushing at our process and attacking it from different angles. But we'll probably go to record the next record next year.
Such a rush, big